we go.
Hello.
Perfect. So, Charlie, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good as well, thank you. So, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for accepting. So, before we start with the whole interview, I need to give you an epic welcome. So, if you have seen some of my episodes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, then let me show you. So.
I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Perfect. So let's start with the interview here. So, tell me, where does your passion for voice acting start?
So I didn't really have a traditional route into voice acting and voiceover. I actually trained to be a food scientist.
Okay.
Initially, I wanted to be a forensic scientist. But my brother died very suddenly, and it gave me a different path. I went off and studied food science, and so that's sort of my kind of educational background. I didn't train in acting as such, but whilst I was at university, I was asked constantly to voice radio commercials and audiobooks and be on the debate team, and so I never really thought that you could have a career using your voice. It didn't really occur to me. I just thought it was fun, and I did it. And then I graduated and went off and studied marketing. And I assumed I would have this big marketing career, leading global teams and whatnot. And it was only really while I was at conferences, I was asked to be the voice of God at conferences, and I was like, this is kind of fun, using my voice over and over again. And then 6 years ago, I moved to the States with my family, and everybody was like, look, you've got a lovely voice, you can use it, which we all know is not the big thing with voice acting, right? It's not about your voice, it's about the whole package. So I threw myself into training and improv and took a bunch of classes and met with a bunch of coaches, and gradually that was sort of how it happened. I'm a mum of 3 kids, so for me, reading to my children at night comes very naturally to me. So playing different characters for them is very natural for me, and that was it really. That was how it started, and I've now been a full-time voice actor for the last 2 years, and I can honestly say it's just the best thing I've ever done, more than training to be a food scientist or a chef or anything else. It's just, I love it. I love it.
That's amazing. And tell me, what are some of the things that you enjoy the most about voiceover? So
I think the fact that I can really be me, I can really be authentically me, which is really important nowadays, that you are not pretending to be someone else, you're not putting on someone else's persona, you can be yourself and people can accept you for who you are, you know, flaws and all, and that's beautiful. I also think that the voice acting community on the whole is really, really immersive and supportive and just really beautiful. I've made so many wonderful friends, and it's just been such a blessing. It's so supportive and loving. I mean, I think that you have to be really flexible to be able to switch it up at a moment. You know, 1 minute you could be voicing a video game, the next minute you could be voicing something in corporate or imaging. So I think that is what I love the most, the flexibility and the community.
That's amazing. And now let's talk about your audiobook performances. So let's start with Once Upon a Wishmas. So what did you enjoy the most about that project?
Oh my gosh, I am such a romantic when it comes to anything Christmassy or Hallmark or anything like that. It really fills me up. I love it so much. And so when Laura asked me to narrate Once Upon a Wishmas, I jumped at the chance, because to be able to be someone sassy and feisty and fierce like Ruby around the Christmas theme was just so much fun. I'm such a romantic, and it was just, I love it. Someone described it as being like Mary Poppins meets The Holiday, and it's just so true. It really is. It's such a it's such a heartwarming story, but with a little twist as well. It's not like your traditional cozy Christmas romance. It's a bit sassy, so I like that.
That's good. And how you will usually prepare to start an audiobook? Like, what is the process that you're going to take?
Yeah, so I mean, it's quite a long process, but it's really important. Preparation when you're doing audiobooks is really key. And for me, I love reading anyway. It doesn't matter what it is. I absolutely adore reading. You know, I love curling up in a corner with a book and a big cup of tea.
Yeah.
So what I normally do is I'll get the manuscript from the publisher or directly from the author if I'm working directly with an author.
Okay.
And I will go through and I'll read it really, really, really well as I'm reading a normal book, and I'll really throw myself into it. And then I'll go back over on my iPad and I will color code every single character, and I'll make notes about the accents or the dialects or where they are or different elements that give them some strength and personality, and I'll start building some kind of backstory for them. I'll also do my own background research on the book, and I will reach out, if I have a relationship with the author, I'll reach out to the author and I have a list of questions that they can fill in about what prompted them to write the book. What do they think about the characters? Do the characters remind them of anybody? Is there any music that they like or listen to when they were writing the book that I could listen to? It's just really having a very collaborative piece of work. That's really important to me. And doing the color coding is really important, because if you have more, obviously with an audiobook, you have more than one character. I think one audiobook I had 50 characters, so it was like I needed to really distinguish all of them in a really easy way. And just I like to have the personal connotations from the author or from the publishers, and I like having a good relationship with my authors. I just find it really, really helpful, but it takes a while to prepare for me because I really throw myself into it, but it's worth it in the long run to get that full package.
Absolutely. And like, how many sessions will usually take to get an audiobook ready?
I mean, it really depends on the type of book. So something that's like a cozy romance won't take as long because I can read it really simply and easily. There's no research to do. I will also say that gone are the days when I would edit and master my own audiobooks. I did that in my very, very early days, and oh my goodness, it's like mind-blowing. It just, it's very long-winded. So I think it really depends on the size and the type of the book that I'm doing. I also have other VO stuff that I work on. I do corporate narration trailers, video games and stuff. So I factor it all in, and I work with the publishers and the authors to get a deadline, and then I work back from that. So,
that's so awesome. Now you have done several performances for audiobooks, such as Love Me Darling, Love Me in the Spotlight, Desert Raven, Captain of My Heart. Now, between those books, which ones you enjoy the most doing, and what are some of the characters that you found interesting?
Ooh, I know this is cheesy, but I loved narrating them all because they're all so different. Some are cozy romances like Love Me Darling and Love Me in the Spotlight, like cozy, sweet romances. I've got a really good working relationship with Laura Burton. I love her work. And then Desert Raven had a lot of complex characters. I think at one point I was voicing Irish, Latino, American, male, female, children.
That's awesome.
I think I might have voiced an animal in there somewhere. It was and then Captain of My Heart was a historical romance that I'm from Bath in the UK, and so for me, coming from Jane Austen country was really lovely to be able to do a historical book. And I love Carla's writing, so I think all of them. I can't choose.
Okay. Now, how you usually prepare for a character?
How do I prepare for a character? There's a really long-winded way I prepare for my characters. So in my booth where I am right now, on my door, I have a ton of photographs and places and pictures of my family and different scenarios and things like that. Those are my inspirations, so they really help me. I'm also a bit of a nosy person. I like to sit in a cafe and watch people. I watch their different characteristics. Do they walk with a limp? Do they have a cane? Do they have a lisp? Do they have braces or buck teeth or floppy hair? Or I look at all of this and I write it all down, and then I come back and I compile all of that into my own little character toolbox, if you like. I sort of imagine what world they live in, what house they live in. Is it small, so they have to walk with a stoop? Is it big and grand? Do they have a cloak so they can sway into the room? Or do they have a snarl or a rasp? I mean, there is just so much that goes into creating any characters for video games and animation. And then when I'm actually in here voicing, I like to have props with me. I take my chair out, I stand, I might put some clothes on. You know, if they're restrictive by clothes, do they have a bodice? Or, you know, I try to get into that character. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. My preparation is like long.
That's good, but it's nice the fact that you will take it kind of step by step, right? And you will be kind of completing each piece, so then you can get I mean, besides a relatable character, kind of a real character,
yeah, exactly. You build it just like you're building. If you're a sculptor, you know, you're building it up, you're building your character arc, and you start with your basics and then you build it up until you've fleshed it out fully. And I think the more you can start with, and then you can start to peel off the layers, I think that I personally find that better for me if I have more to go on. But sometimes when you're doing an audition, you don't have anything. You might have a couple of lines. You might not even have an image. So it's up to us as voice actors to take what we think and to really do our own research and compile our own sort of character arcs, if you like.
That's really amazing. Now, what do you think it's important to know for those who want to start doing voiceover?
It's not going to happen overnight. I think is the most important thing. It's not going to happen overnight. I mean, I watched Helen on your chat recently, Helen Kennedy. She's been doing it 20 years. You know, there are all these veterans of VO out there, and they've taken time to establish themselves and their studios and to build their brand and to build their persona and get themselves really well known within the industry. It's not going to happen overnight. For some it might. For some you might be really lucky. You might just land it and get going overnight. But I think it's always better to have the expectation that, as people say, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And, you know, take the time to have really good training, work with really good coaches. And it's not for the faint of heart. You need to have very thick skin. We hear, as actors, we hear no a lot. But you take those no's and you build on that, and you build things that you need to work on, and you take the yeses and, you know, you give yourself a sense of pride, and it's wonderful. I mean, be humble, be kind, and just be authentic, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it is one of the things that we as a society are being through. You know, the fact that we want things happen, you know, like fast. You know, that we want everything happen super fast. We don't want any process, or we don't want to hear that it's gonna take time. We just want everything fast, like without waiting. Yeah. But I mean, and I've said that in some of my previous episodes here, that you need those kind of moments when you're building, because you learn to truly enjoy it, you know. And as you said, like once you have like those small victories, I mean, those really make you feel that that you are on the right path. You know, I think that when you have those moments is when you pretty much feel that you are on the right path, and that is one of the things that I would say that I like the most when you are creating something on your own. You know.
Yeah, I really agree. And like you say, you know, we're a fast food generation now. We want everything really fast. We want it instantaneously. But there's a lot to be said for taking your time and really getting to know what you want. I mean, when I started doing voice acting, I wanted to do audiobooks. And then my training in audiobooks led me to video games, and now I'm doing trailers, and you know, eventually I'd like to do promo and more commercial. I think we need to be patient with ourselves and also give ourselves grace that right now it's really hard, especially. So if things don't happen instantaneously, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I totally agree on everything. I mean, I just think that we just got used to whenever we want, we will just marking on our cell phone, and it will have to be there in a couple of minutes. And
right.
I will give an example that if everything was like that, it would be, for example, when you were little and they will give you this toy that you want the most, you will have it, you will enjoy it, yes, but then eventually something new is going to happen, and then you're going to throw that away and look for the new thing, and you didn't enjoy and you didn't truly enjoy it as if you have worked hard on it and then you got what you want. It feels, you know, it feels good and it feels amazing, and I think that fuels whatever you're doing to keep up going.
Yeah, I agree, you know, and it's something as a mum I teach my children that if they really want something, they really, really want it, they can save up for it and they can get it. But there's such an ease now to go on Amazon and, you know, get it the next day.
Yeah.
And I really, you know, I think that sometimes when you really want something, it's good to wait, because sometimes that changes, and you know what you thought you really wanted, you don't want anymore, and that's totally cool. And it's the same for voiceover. Take your time. I know a few people who've started in voiceover and they don't get the instant results and they give up, and it's really sad. So
yeah, absolutely. And it will get you to a point in which you will be doubting yourself if this is like the right path for you, or you know, and of course I understand that we all have expenses, we all have our debts, things that we need to pay daily, right? And but also, like, one of the things that I do encourage people is that if you want to do acting, voiceover, I mean, whatever you want to do, of course that of course that while you're building it, you need to find maybe like a temporary job or something, so you can pretty much fuel all of what you do. And then once you start to move more professional with whatever that you're doing, then then you can leave that temporary job and now focus on it. Because the other day I had this conversation with a friend of mine that he wanted to start his own thing, and I was like, well, why don't you do it? And he was like, well, because I need to eat, I need to pay rent and all of that. And I was like, yeah, but you can find a temporary job, and on your free time you can focus on what you want. And then he said, yeah, but then I will be very tired. And I was like, well, yeah, then I think on that moment you don't really want that, you know, because I've discovered that when you really want something, you will always manage to get it done. I mean, even if you need to sleep, you will get some time to sleep and then continue doing that. So it's funny how we will be like having the situation in which we want everything, but we don't want the hard work, you know. So
absolutely, if you really want it, you will do anything to get it. And you know, it would be so easy for me as a mum to be like, oh, you know, we're in the process of moving house, I'm in the process of moving my studio, my kids are moving 3 schools. It would be so easy for me to be like, you know, I'll take time off. I don't want to take any time off at all. I don't want to take a minute out of my passion that I love so much. I love what I do. I have the best agents. I have the best clients. I'm very lucky. And, you know, so I'm going to be building a studio that I can go right from this one straight into my other one without taking a break. And it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of financial investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we make sacrifices in other areas, and it's, you know.
Absolutely. And like my last question here would be, like, what motivates you every day to keep working hard on your passion?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I would say definitely my family are my motivators. 2 of my 3 children are also voice actors, so it's a bit like a family affair. We actually got to voice a really cool kids education app together, and it was so fun just working together. I would say they motivate me, but my real motivation comes from within. I have this absolute passion to voice video games and maybe one day be the voice of a TV channel. Set my bar really high. I've always been very motivated and very ambitious, and I'm a bit competitive as well, so yeah.
That's really amazing. And like a bonus question, like, now that you have mentioned video games, I mean, I'm curious, like, what are some of the video games that you have worked on?
Well, I haven't worked on any video games yet. I've worked on a couple of little trailers, but I have not been fortunate to actually book a video game yet. I am dying to book a video game. It's just an absolute passion of mine. I did voice, I voiced Thassa, one of the characters of Magic the Gathering. I voiced that character with a couple of other voice actors. It's actually for I don't know if you would call it like a fan dub. I don't think it is called a fan dub. It's for the Tolarian Community College. They have under 1 million followers, and they teach people how to play Magic the Gathering. So if you can already play it but you want to get better, and I voiced Thassa and Maria and Wolf, and I did. It was just fab. And on the back of that, I got booked to do some radio imaging because they heard my voice, and I got to work with Spotify. So
that's amazing. Cool. Yeah, I mean, at the end, we all have to start somewhere, right? And we all have to do the work in order to one day reach, you know, for something bigger, let's say. But that's really amazing. I mean, I'm definitely sure that at some point we're gonna hear your voice in, you know, like this big video game franchise. I mean, like Cyberpunk or like The Witcher or like the Tomb Raider. You know, like one of these big franchises. I mean, I'm super sure that at some point you're gonna reach those. I mean, that's obvious. It's just gonna eventually, but I'm super sure that's gonna happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I mean, my family are big gamers, so it would be so cool for them to be like, "Hey, that's Mummy's voice."
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I think eventually it's gonna happen. I'm super sure, because when you really want something and you put the work on it, it's gonna, of course, it's gonna take time. And I mean, as we were saying before, that's kind of the part that discourages, you know, when you realize that it's gonna take time. And you might say, yeah, it's gonna take maybe a couple of weeks. No, I mean, it can take months, years, or maybe hours. You know, you can do something and then a couple of hours you book something and voila, you know.
Right.
So it's pretty much to be like, how can I say it? I don't know, but basically just to yeah, do the thing that you love the most, because that energy and that passion you put to it, it will inspire others, and at the same time it will show to everyone around that you are truly passionate and that you're good at what you do, you know.
I agree. I think that's so true. You just have to be true to yourself and true to your passion, and you know, it's such a small community. I mean, everyone seems to know everybody, and I really believe for everybody there's a place for all voices. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing here. I mean, there's always opportunities for everyone, and that is one of the awesome things, I think, in general, right? There's always a chance to do what you want. But hey, I mean, Charlie, thank you so much for for pretty much accepting. That was really cool here. Make sure that you're following Charlie in all of our social media. Normally what I would say is that if you're watching this later on the YouTube video or you're listening this later on the podcast, put pause, hydrate, and then follow Charlie. Then leave a lot of likes here and there. Make sure that you are sharing some content. Why not? And then come back definitely for this for the rest of the interview. And now, before I let you go, I have 2 surprises now. So I'm starting this new thing in which instead of giving you 1 epic send off, I will give you 2 epic send offs. So let me just start with the first one. So here we go. Yeah, so that is basically because we finished the interview in an epic way, so that's cool. Congratulations. And the last one is the big one. So here we go.
I love it. Thank you so much.
and yeah, again, thank you so much. Keep having an amazing rest of the day, an amazing weekend, and I can't wait to hear more of your awesome work in the future.
Thank you, Dano. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day and a great weekend.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye.